Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a post-match pint in association with Purity Ale. If you use the code #VillaView, you will get 10% off everything Purity have to offer. And breaking news, well, it's not actually breaking news at all because we put it on social media, but you will have a chance to win a case of Purity during this evening's show. So stay tuned if you fancy winning yourself some of their Villa cans. I'm joined by Neil, the Doldrums Dunworth, to discuss Aston Villa 1, Liverpool 3, a lesson, Neil, that you shouldn't drink and tweet.
Well, you shouldn't drink it. You shouldn't be pissed off, and you shouldn't be trying to do 40 things at once when you're trying to send a tweet. But yeah, yesterday was as I said, I put out a tweet afterwards, and I said, you know what? Sometimes it's good to get a reality check when people say, "Hey, cop the fuck on." Excuse my language, but essentially, that's what the Twitter masses said, and that's nice to know. It's nice to know that people kind of realized that I was overly negative and kind of said, "Hey, pull yourself back off the ledge there, man," because you're usually positive about things that you say. So don't be one of those guys. Don't be one of those guys. But yeah, but you'd swear
it's very unlike you. I obviously watched down.
I wouldn't mind, but they didn't even perform that badly. I was just annoyed at certain things. About
you reeled off a list of what felt like the whole team at the time.
I was okay. Let's get into it because I put down Digne and I knew I shouldn't have, and I was putting it down. I was going, oh, I'm just so annoyed at him getting rolled by that 17-year-old when he telegraphed it. And then I just went, no, this is it. Digne's on my list, and John McGinn was on my list for missing the header because I just thought that was just. It just looked comical, to be honest with you. Douglas Luiz gave the ball away in the first half, and I went, well, I'm not over that. He's on my list. I said, their halves couldn't defend Peter. So they're on my list too. So that's just the way it was. That's the way it went. But no, I think overall, as I said, there was a lot of green shoots in that game yesterday, but 280 characters certainly don't allow you to have a pros and a cons list the length that I was planning on having last night.
No, I was surprised because I was walking into the 1874 bar after the game with my dad, and I was saying, you know what? I feel relatively positive about that. We've lost, but I think there's some negatives to take away for sure. There's things we could have done better, but also I felt like there was some positives to take away from the game. Then I saw your tweet, and I was like, the game must have been different on Irish television to what it was at Villa Park, because Neil does not feel positive at all. But it's good to be able to discuss these things because that's what football's about. It's about having opinions, and mainly when you've got an opinion on Twitter, you get attacked if everyone thinks you're wrong and get called all the names under the sun. Yeah. Obviously, because we're mates, we didn't do that. But I respectfully disagreed with your tweet after the game. I watched Match of the Day last night. I've watched the highlights packages through the day. I genuinely think on another day, Villa could have quite easily won that game. They could have definitely taken a point from that game. I think they were unfortunate with conceding 2 deflections as well. Villa both hitting Tyrone Mings and going in. So on another day, I'm not saying Villa defended brilliantly because they didn't, but I do think Bailey has a better game and takes a couple of his chances. Perhaps doesn't miskick them. I'm convinced that only happened because he was coming off my fantasy football bench. If he'd have been sat on a bench and wasn't coming on fantasy football, I think he would have scored a couple of goals. Watkins probably gets another one on another day. And I think it's encouraging that we're creating things against these teams, against an elite team like Liverpool, albeit they've not been their best so far this season. I think we caught them on a day when they had most of their players fit, pretty much their first choice back. It was their first choice back 4 there. They've got Alisson in goal, probably their first choice midfield 3 as well. I think probably if they had a cup final tomorrow and had everyone fit, the only one that wouldn't have played was maybe Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah,
that they've had injuries all season, and we've caught them at a time when everyone seemed to be fit and they were clinical. And you can't legislate for things like Trent's ball for the first goal. That is just a ridiculous pass that not many footballers are capable of. It's an unbelievable pass with the outside of his foot, and that gets us off to a bad start, and we're chasing the game. But I was largely encouraged by what I saw. As I say, I think, yes, we could definitely have defended better. I was surprised by how open we were, Neil. I think I was expecting maybe a cross between the Brighton and the Manchester United games in terms of the way we defended. And it seemed to be a bit far the other way. We seemed very open, and we seemed very easy to open up over the top. And the defence and the centre-backs seemed exposed at times. I felt that was my main gripe with the game. I just felt that maybe we were a little bit too easy for Liverpool to play through. And again, Darwin Núñez has probably missed 3 or 4 good chances as well.
I think, and look, I know that nobody here wants to see Robin Olsen in goals. Me on that list too. Because as I say, Emi Martinez is a better goalkeeper, and I think that we do like it. Just the confidence level just isn't there. But I don't think he was at fault for much yesterday, and I think he saved some shots that the I think the Robin Olsen of against Manchester United would have probably let in, like the Darwin Núñez volley after Konza kicked it up in the sky for whatever reason, and Darwin Núñez takes it on a volley, and he blocks that with his feet, and another day that goes in underneath his legs. There was a couple of them that come to mind. When he makes a save from Darwin Núñez, and he makes a save, he can't hold on to it, and it cannons back off Douglas Luiz, and then he needs to make another save down to his near post as well. I thought that was a really good save in the second half. But look, what you mentioned there about our defensive setup, and that's what really kind of annoyed me throughout the whole game yesterday, is that I've seen those goals before. I've seen the goal that Virgil van Dijk scores because we have Emi Buendia marking him, or John McGinn marking the centre half of the back post. Yeah. I've seen the fact that we concede an awful lot of, well, it seems like we give up the front post header more often than not, and this is historically we've done that. It was you remember against Liverpool, Sadio Mane, Jonathan Kodjia puts his foot up and Sadio Mane stoops and heads the ball into the back of the net, and Liverpool win 2-1 when we were leading 1-0 up until like 5 minutes to go. And little things like that have just they're continually happening to Aston Villa. I just don't think that we've got any control of our box. Goalkeeper obviously makes a difference for something like that as well. I think our two centre halves are very timid. They don't look for runners. And when you see somebody like Virgil van Dijk peeling off there, what actually happens as well is the ball comes back to the back post. Luca Dean gets a head on it, and he keeps the ball in instead of it going out of play at that stage. It drops to Virgil van Dijk. It drops to Salah, I think, who lays it back to Virgil van Dijk, and then Van Dijk sticks it in the back of the net, obviously through a field of bodies. But these goals, these kind of this unsure, haphazard, or hesitant defending, it happens to us quite a lot. And for the Salah goal at the start, look, what a fantastic ball by Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then that first time pass from Robertson. But you've got Luca Dean, you've got Mings, and I can't remember who the other person is that's there. And Salah just literally walks in between the two of them, and neither of the two of them know he's there. It's that kind of that lack of awareness in the box catches us so much, and I found that really frustrating. I really did. And then the third goal, nobody went to Bacec, and he was able to take the ball to the side. Actually, the only person who went to him was Robin Olsen, and there was two men on the line, so I actually didn't really have a problem with him coming out to it. But then the two men leave the line, and one goes in under Tyrone Mings' legs. But the build-up to that goal was Tyrone Mings with a misplaced clearance. It came out of the sky, and he passed it to a Liverpool player. So, like, we were kind of the masters of our own downfall for the goals in some ways. Our attacking play was brilliant. I thought yesterday, I thought we were really good from chance creation, but then we went and we kind of stood on the rake at the back at least once, if not twice. And I think that was frustrating from our defensive setup. And you could hear it in Unai Emery's voice in his post match as well. He was frustrated. He more or less said that there was it was individual and it was tactical errors that kind of cost us yesterday. So, but hopefully, as I say, that we will be able to iron those out for Spurs on New Year's Day. Yes.
New Year's Day. Yeah. I think Snowflake makes a decent point in the live chat. Hopefully, we can get that up on screen now. But
I see it there.
The high line was a little bit bizarre because you've got a goalkeeper that is pretty stuck to his line, I would say, Olsen. And when he does come, he's very hesitant. I don't think he was particularly at fault for any of the goals yesterday, Robin Olsen. I think his main problem is that he's not Emi Martinez.
That's it.
That's the biggest problem. But when you've got a goalkeeper who's a little bit nervy, it affects those that are in front of the goalkeeper, and it affects the crowd behind him as well. And then the crowd affect him, and he becomes even more antsy. So although he made some good saves, and I don't think he was at fault for any of the goals, I do think there's just that element of nervousness about him, about the crowd, and about the players in front of him as well when he plays, which is a problem. I mean, hopefully, you don't have to rely on your number two for any long period of time, but the fact still remains. I think he's played 3.5 games now for Villa. 14 goals. Yeah. It's a lot of goals, and you can't chalk that down and say it's a coincidence because it isn't. It's happening because of the change of goalkeeper in the main. I was saying I don't want to dig him out, and as I said, I don't think he was bad yesterday, but he doesn't have the same. What's the word I'm looking at? The presence that Martinez has. He affects the whole stadium, affects the whole ground, it affects the defense.
I agree. And like you expect a goalkeeper of 31 years of age, I think is here, 32 years of age. I don't know, maybe I might be doing him a
He's an
disservice.
experienced goalkeeper.
An experienced goalkeeper who's won the Swedish goalkeeper of the year 7 years in a row, and he barely came off the bench for Aston Villa last season, So you expect him to have a small bit more about him. Put it this way. If Philip Marshall had stood in goals yesterday and had the performance of Robin Olsen, we'd be here rubbing our hands together and kind of going, this guy's only 20, fair play
He
to
made a
him.
couple of saves, yeah.
But Robin Olsen should have a bit more about him than a 20-year-old making his debut in the Premier League. Look, we were behind the 8 ball. We had to start him. Like there was, I would have been really surprised if Philip Marshall had started this game, barring Robin Olsen having a knock, which he was supposed to have. But we were kind of behind the 8 ball. We all knew it. We could all see it coming from like 2-3 weeks out as Argentina began to progress. And I know myself and Paddy on our podcast were talking ourselves into, well, maybe Emmy takes the Stevenage game, and but it didn't work out. And as I say, he's going to be back for Spurs, potentially back for Spurs. It was very kind of vaguely worded, is it?
He'll be back for Spurs. I mean, you look at I've just watched a Manchester United game, and obviously France didn't win, so there's no celebrations. Yeah. They lost the final, but Varane's come out and played when he's probably not fully fit, probably mentally not in the right state, but they needed him because they had a sickness bug. He probably wouldn't have played had Manchester United not been ravaged by a sickness bug. He's gone there and he's helped his team, but I guess if France had won, he probably wouldn't have played for them tonight. He probably wouldn't have been back. The problem has been for Villa is that Argentina won the World Cup and they go and have all their celebrations in their own country, obviously, as you would, bedlam in Argentina. And we've lost him for an important game.
And another thing as well is if it was France that won, France is an hour journey back to England.
Yeah.
Argentina is a day's travel. As well. So there is, I think, a small bit in that in the logistics of the whole situation. And the sooner we get teleportation sorted out, the better, I think, for international football.
In this day and age, it's got to have been sorted by now. An absolute disgrace that this still hasn't happened it's nearly 2023.
And how long have they been doing it on TV? If it's someone's holding it back somewhere along the line.
How long's Doctor Who been going on? I don't know. Did they even do teleportation in Doctor Who? I don't think I've ever watched it. I'm not sure. Should have a quick interruption to say we have got a competition tonight to win a case of Purity with their new Aston Villa 3rd shirt branding. Just as Neil drinks a drink that is not Purity. Oh, what's this? There we go. So you can win a case of the new Purity 3rd kit for you and for a friend apparently as well. I didn't know that. All you've got to do is follow the Villa View. Follow Purity, tag the Villa View and tag Purity on Twitter and take a photo, basically, of us on the screen to prove that you're watching the show. So take a photo and then you'll be able to have a chance of winning it. We'll choose a winner by the end of tomorrow. I hope that made sense. It barely made sense in my head and I didn't know what was going on. Neil, you posing for a photo? I thought you frozen. We're having enough issues on the Villa View. We don't need people pretending to be frozen now. That's the last thing that we need. Right. So yeah, give yourself a chance of winning some Purity, and obviously thanks to Purity for offering that and continuing to sponsor us.
Purity
back to the gap. Yeah, back to the game.
You used to be able to get it over here in Ireland before as well.
He's very upset about not being able to get it in Ireland. Neil, come on, Purity, sort yourselves out. Teleport some cans over to Neil if you can, please. 0-0. Villa had a big chance with Ollie Watkins. He went through not a big chance, but he went through 1-on-1. He obviously scored. He's had another ruled out for offside, which was a nice finish. But he's taken some stick on social media because he hasn't put every single chance in the back of the net that he's had on the match day, which is just the way social media works. Took his goal really, really nicely, Ollie Watkins. It was the header from the McGinn cross. I think we were 1-0 down at that point. It was the header from the McGinn cross. I felt like he should have done a bit better with that one. What a cross from John McGinn, by the way. Yeah, I thought John McGinn was better yesterday, in my opinion. I think that hybrid wide / central midfield role actually really suits John McGinn's game. He gives the ball away. Yes, his passing's not his strongest suit. But Luiz, whose passing is his strongest suit, he gave the ball away yesterday as well. But Watkins did miss a few chances, as did Leon Bailey. With January coming round, probably think that Unai Emery is going to be in the market for a striker.
Well, I thought it was really, I thought it kind of showed the gold rush as such for players is going to happen quickly, I think, in January. The way we've heard previously, teams find it difficult to get somebody in January. Well, Wolves have signed a player on loan and have committed to paying 40 million for him in the summer. Liverpool have gone and signed Cody Gakpo. Like there's a chase on for Marcus Thuram at the moment, which apparently we're a part of. So I don't think there's going to be too much kind of sitting on our hands with regards to this. I would have expected a couple of games, maybe after the Stevenage game or something like that, we might click into gear. Maybe potentially even going on to after the Leeds game, we might kick into gear. But I think that the recruitment team are going to have to be hot on their toes because the big teams are circling, and the World Cup has made teams kind of, I suppose, take stock of what they have at the moment mid-season, which has been something that they don't usually get an opportunity to do. And I think there's going to be business to be done. But like you say, Dan, it's funny, at the start of the season, I would have said, oh, we need another midfielder. And as the year has gone on, I think this tactic that Unai Emery has brought in, I'm kind of confident in our midfield at the moment. I'm confident enough there. Obviously, if someone goes out, if Coutinho does go to Flamengo or to Corinthians or whoever it is that's linked with him, if he does go, I think we will need to replace him. But I'd be more interested in bringing in defensive replacements and an attacker, an out-and-out striker, I think, as well, which is really interesting because at the start of the season, I didn't really feel... Yes, I thought we might have needed another striker, but I would have thought that Ings or Watkins would have been able to do the business for us and would have staked a claim to be our main striker. But I think if somebody comes in January, they could immediately stake a claim to be our main striker with the other guys playing cameos. And that's a big question I think that needs to be asked at the moment is Danny Ings obviously scores 3 or 4 goals in a short, or 2 or 3 goals, should I say, in a short period of time. And he gets 10, 15 minutes yesterday. I think that could be
tactical, isn't it? I think
it is.
Danny Ings is a player for certain games. I think Unai Emery, in fairness, and I think he's correct in this is exactly what I do. Just my opinion. Decided Ollie Watkins and Leon Bailey, probably a little bit more direct, would cause Liverpool a bit more trouble in transition. And I would go along with that. And I would agree with that. Unfortunately, they've both had a not great day in front of goal, albeit Watkins has ended up on the score sheet. But Bailey on another day, I think he takes those chances.
Those chances were poor. Like if both those chances fall to Jacob Ramsey scored 2 goals.
I was going to say that Jacob Ramsey is probably one of our better finishers, and I think it's probably overlooked that yesterday we were missing Jacob Ramsey. I've not seen it mentioned too many times. He's a big player for us, especially with what Unai Emery is trying to do as well. Jacob Ramsey will be a massive player for Villa in the second half of the season. You saw how good he was against Manchester United because he was getting involved in the game, which is what we weren't seeing under Steven Gerrard, because basically the system hamstrung him and it wouldn't let him. But he was heavily involved in that Manchester United win and was brilliant. I think he got a goal and an assist that day. He was missing, and I think in transition, I think he'd have really caused Liverpool problems. Now, we caused them problems anyway. We've caused ourselves problems at times defensively, but going forward, we did get at Liverpool. I think we spoke about it in the preview. I think Fabinho looks a bit off the pace again for Liverpool, I would say. And I think we got at him and found it easy to break through him as the last midfielder and get at Liverpool's back four. They didn't enjoy coming up against Watkins and Bailey. I don't think too much Liverpool. And as I said, on another day, I think we might have scored a couple of goals. The bit that surprised me was we're 2-1 down, so we've got ourselves back in the game. We then had 10 minutes where we were piling it on. Liverpool could not get out. They kept trying to clear their lines, and we kept recycling the ball, getting it back, keeping it moving, making chances. Kamara was a massive part of that. I thought he was brilliant yesterday. Brilliant. He just kept winning the ball back. He's so good in tight spaces. His passing's good as well. He looks the real deal in midfield, Boubacar Kamara. I think for a free transfer, Villa won't do many bits of better business ever, because he's going to be a fantastic footballer, and the time comes for him to leave and he'll go somewhere big. Villa will make a huge profit, but obviously I want him to stay and do well. So for 10 minutes, Villa really laid it on Liverpool, and I felt like we're going to get back into this game here. We look really good. Then that pressure subsided and Liverpool started to come back into it. We didn't make the changes. We didn't change anything, and Liverpool go on and they get the third, and then inevitably a bit poor Lambert. We make the subs when we're 3-1 down. So they've got no time to impact the game. That those subs, there was nothing they could really do. That would be a gripe I had yesterday, that we didn't make the subs after that period had subsided, because we needed to make a change at that point because we didn't score when we were on top. A little bit like in the first half. I think we've had 2 major spells in that game, one in the first half, one in the second half. And we didn't get that critical goal at that point that would have got us level. And again, football matches are very much won in moments. And in that pivotal moments yesterday, Villa didn't get the ball over the line.
That's true. Yeah, for sure. And you know, I thought Buendia had a good first half, and I thought he ran out of steam early in the second half, which is disappointing because he's somebody who really needs to, he needs to start grabbing his position. And this game in particular for him, he needed to grab it by the scruff of the neck and show that he could be that wide left player that Aston Villa not that they're looking for, but to, there's been a lot of questions. 38 million he's come in for. He hasn't really solidified a place within this team. He hasn't tore up trees since he's been here. And I was just, he looked like he was out on his feet. Great endeavor and effort, don't get me wrong.
He always works hard.
He always does. And he cares. That's a big thing about him, is he really cares. And you can see it on the field. But I thought maybe around 70 minutes, I would have been 100% okay with John McGinn, Bundia, and Leon Bailey all being whipped at that stage, because I thought they had enough done. Maybe bring on an Ings, bring on Dendoncker, put him into the middle of the park, maybe change up the formation a small bit, whatever way you want to look at it. It's hindsight, so you're always going to have different answers in hindsight. But like you, as I say, that 10-minute situation was very important, and Liverpool actually reacted to it because they brought on Naby Keita and Harvey Elliott for Thiago and Alex Oxlade. Yeah, and then in the 79th minute they took off Trent and they took off Jordan Henderson as well, because we were going at Trent Alexander-Arnold with Bailey. Or we were going at Andy Robertson, but we were trying to isolate Watkins on Trent Alexander-Arnold. We got the goal from that cross, should I say, from Douglas Luiz. So the in-game reaction was really good from Liverpool. It's not anything, I don't think it's anything to panic about, obviously. Unai Emery is known for in-game substitutions, halftime substitutions, turning
That's why I was surprised.
Around. And exactly, that's what I was going to say. That's why I was surprised it didn't happen in this game. And I'm sure if he had that back, he would definitely do it.
But if you take the positives away from that 10 minutes, Villa haven't had many periods in games where they've absolutely dominated like that and looked a very good footballing side. Even though we lost yesterday, and again, I do think the line was perhaps a bit high and we were perhaps a little bit too easy to open up. But I can see what we're trying to do. I can see that there's a patterns of play now. I can see that there's a style of football. So we've lost a game, but we're coming away from it talking about, we had this chance. If this had happened, maybe we would have won a game. We've been losing games, doing absolutely nothing at the start of the season. Even though we've lost, I can still see that they've actually worked on something through the week. And that's, sometimes that's all I need to see to be happy. Is obviously I want us to win, yes. But I know that they're working. I know that they're trying to do things. And Mings spoke after the game and said, we're not there yet. We're not at the level we need to be at for this manager and being able to play his way. It takes time. I think, obviously, we won the first two games as well, which almost makes a rod for your own back, because you've done so well in those first two games. You've immediately raised the standards, but you also end up raising the expectations of the fan base. Villa were far from poor yesterday. I thought Villa were good, and I think Jurgen Klopp said after the game as well, this is a tough place to come. And it's going to get tougher under this manager. That's not word for word what he said, but he said something along those lines, Jurgen Klopp. I think you could see Liverpool were in a game. I think Jurgen Klopp will be happy with that 3 points because he knows it quite easily could have gone the other way. But there was lots to like about Aston Villa now.
There was, and I had a couple of Liverpool. I had one Liverpool sporting mate that messaged me yesterday, and he said it was an entertaining game to watch. It could have been 4-4, and if it was 4-4, nobody would have given.
First half hour flew by in the ground.
Absolutely.
I was like, 27 minutes has gone. I remember saying to my dad, 27 minutes has gone. That's absolutely flown by, because there was some really good football in there. It was an entertaining game. It was full throttle.
Absolutely, and as you say, we did do some really good things. And when we attacked, you mentioned there about the you can see the identity for our attack and so on and so forth. We attacked through the middle, we attacked in the left, we attacked in the right. And it wasn't always about just feeding the wingers. It was about trying to make that pass, or trying to look for a runner from midfield as well. So, Bundia was coming in central, John McGinn was coming in central when he needed to. So if Bailey took the ball out wide right, coming from that central striker position, or that two in the striker position, should I say, McGinn was taking up that role, kind of cutting inside for that underlap, if you want to, if that even is the phrase for it. But, so little things like that. We weren't always looking to go wide, get it down to the byline and then cross it in, which is extremely frustrating under Steven Gerrard. So yes, you can definitely see an identity coming there. You can definitely see people are doing what they're supposed to be doing or what they're being asked to do. At least I hope that's what we're seeing on the field. But we're seeing something different than we saw in the first 10 or 12 games of the season, and hopefully that morphs and that tends to evolve then over the next few games this year as well.
Yeah, I don't think it was as tactically interesting for Villa as it was in that Manchester United game at Villa Park. There was loads of little things that I noticed in that game. I don't feel like our game plan or the way we play maybe changed in the Liverpool game. I think it was pretty much the same tactics all the way through. There's a lot of people obviously talking about Watkins in the live chat at the moment, as you would, because he did miss chances. But
yeah,
I want to give him some credit because one, he is getting in the positions. And again, not every striker can get in the position. Some strikers might be able to finish better than him, but they won't actually get in the positions that he gets in the first place. So, for a positive for him, he's getting himself in the positions. Two, I think his hold-up play was pretty good in that game again. I think he's bringing people into the game well, and people can knock him for his first touch all they like. But there was a couple of difficult situations he found himself up against Virgil van Dijk, up against Matip yesterday, and he'd hold the ball up and he'd get us higher at the pitch. He'd hold on to it and he'd lay it off to someone, and Villa would get on the attack. I don't think it was all bad from Watkins yesterday. He's missed a couple of chances. Yes, he's not the world's greatest finisher, and he does miss chances, but he did an awful lot of good yesterday in that game as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's finished for the first one that was offside. I still think there's not one person in this chat or on the internet today would have any inkling that they were offside for that goal when they ran through. Obviously, when you have the opportunity to put the lines there on the field and stuff, you can see it, and it looked half a foot offside or whatever. But that run was brilliant, and that finish was absolutely
that was a lethal finish. I've just said about his finishing being a little bit erratic. That was a lethal finish.
That finish was brilliant. The header that he scored from was brilliant. In the first half, that one that you mentioned in the first 5, just before they actually scored, where that ball drops to him, I thought that was a really difficult finish, and I thought that was a really difficult shot to take, and I wasn't surprised that it was a tame shot. The one for me yesterday that he missed was the header, and I think it was still a difficult chance, but
it's good positioning from Alisson, actually, because he's headed it down as well. He has headed it down in his defence.
Yeah.
But I felt like he managed to take the sting out of the cross, if that makes sense.
We see those scored against us. That's kind of why I'm kind of smiling wryly here. It's one of those ones that we see a striker will put it in the back of the net. Like, that could be something like a ball comes like that to, I don't know, Eze, and we're playing against Crystal Palace, and he gets his header on target, and it goes in the bottom corner, but it never really comes off for Aston Villa. And yeah, I'd like to, and I think he would like to have that back again, and maybe go. I don't even know if he needed to go at it with his head, but he did, and it didn't go in. But that was the one I thought that he could have done a small bit better with. But once again, Alisson's positioning was good. So like if he finishes that first one, it wasn't offside. We're looking at that and we're going, oh my God, what a brilliant finish, and where did that come from? But hopefully he continues to get better. I do think, regardless of what happens with him over the next few games, that another striker will be coming into the team.
I don't think I think that's paramount. I don't think it's to replace him. I think it's to play with him.
Yeah,
Bailey moves back into perhaps a wide position. I think there'll be a striker to play with Watkins, and there'll be options, and there'll be different players play different games. I don't think Ings would have suited that game. I get that Ings is the better finisher. I've got no qualms with that. Ings is a better finisher than Ollie Watkins, but all-round game, especially against the big teams. And I remember in the Manchester City game at home as well, I thought he was told to play was brilliant. When you're playing against these big teams where you're having less of the ball, and sometimes you do need someone to make it stick, I think that side of his game is overlooked a little bit. People hammering for his touch. I didn't see much of that yesterday. Sometimes his football intelligence can be questioned.
Yeah,
but his hold-up play is pretty good for me. I thought there was a couple of examples of it yesterday. If you were to watch that game back 90 minutes, you'd see a couple of examples of excellent hold-up play for a striker, easing the pressure on his team and bringing people into play and setting attacks off. It's not all bad, and it's the same with Villa. We've lost 3-1 to Liverpool. Liverpool are a great side. It's probably 10 of their first choice 11, as I said at the start of the show. It's not all misery. And Unai Emery has won 2 of his first 3 games. 6 points from those games that we've played. Manchester United at home, Brighton away, Liverpool at home. 6 points is a pretty good return now.
I think so too. And I think, deep down in my heart and soul, like I said that it was good. I thought that we get a 1-1 draw out of this. And as the game transpired, what happened was I always felt Aston Villa were going to be punching upwards in this game. and we had a chance. We had a free shot in this game, and we had a chance to uppercut them a couple of times, and we didn't take it. And that's that getting back, I suppose, to my ill-fated tweet. I think that's really the underlying part of it, was that I suppose, we don't get games or chances like that where we play so well and then we undo ourselves in certain situations, and I think that was frustrating. But as you say, to get 6 points from those 3 games is quite a good return. You've got Spurs at the weekend. Then we've got
winnable game, in my opinion.
I think it is. Although it is away from home. Then we've got Leeds, and we've got Wolves and Leeds and Stevenage in between. So I'm thinking that we should be going on. We've got Leicester in there somewhere as well. So I'm thinking that we can get some points in the up and coming games, but the transfer market is going to be huge for us. But actually, before we even, if we are going to go, or if we're going to talk about the transfer market for the next few minutes, one thing I will say about going back to the positives, the emergence of Caden Young, he made the bench again. This weekend, and I thought that there was a very, very high likelihood that potentially he might have come on if Buendia got injured and when Buendia went down. I thought he might come on there. Obviously, Coutinho did come on in that instance, and he's coming back from injury as well. But Caden Young's obviously made a huge impression on Unai Emery, and while he's only 16 years of age,
Ridiculous.
that's huge. That's huge to be sitting on the bench against Liverpool. And your first real opportunity to potentially have some meaningful minutes in the Premier League. And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the game against Stevenage, or if he plays a good, decent part of the game against Stevenage, and that must be huge for him.
Yeah, I think he's probably not there if Ramsey's fit, would be my thing. But we don't know how long Ramsey's going to be out for, or me personally, I don't know how long Ramsey's going to be out for. I've not seen how long he's going to be out for. Hopefully he's back soon, because I really think he's going to be pivotal for us, Jacob Ramsey. But yeah, it's often a new manager will come in and they'll identify someone from the under-23s or the under-21s, whatever it's called nowadays. They'll identify someone who's been absolutely nowhere near it. No one's spoken about them breaking into the first team. And then from nowhere, that player comes in and he's suddenly on the bench. I think that happens quite often when a new manager takes over. So it will be interesting to see how he develops. That probably just about does us. But before we go, don't forget, if you are watching the show and you fancy winning a case of Purity, quickly take a photo of your device that you're watching it on. Tag the Villa View and tag Purity in the tweet. Follow both. Send that picture on Twitter and you'll be able to have a chance of winning a case of Purity, and we'll announce the winner tomorrow. Hopefully that made some kind of sense, because again, I'm not sure I explained it the best at all. Neil, thanks ever so much for being a good sport and joining me today. We've all been there with the tweets. I think I once did a tweet comparing Yakubu Basila to Patrick Vieira. So we've all done tweets before, Neil. We've all done. Don't die on the show now. We've all had tweets before after a few beers or Guinnesses now. So yeah, you're not alone. We've all got tweets that we look back and regret. We'll be back for a match preview ahead of the Spurs game, either Thursday or Friday. At this point, I've got absolutely no idea at all what day it is, as is usually the case at Christmas. If you fancy tuning into Sky Sports News in the morning to watch Paper Talk, I will be on reviewing the morning's papers. So yeah, if you want to watch me on Sky Sports News, please do. It'd be excellent to have your support. Neil, you got anything coming up that you want to plug?
No, just the same old ding dong. I'll be doing
always previews, on the podcasts,
previews, post views, team sheet tantrums. If you guys don't watch the team sheet tantrum, they're a bit of crack, and they're not a tantrum as such. That was the ironic name.
That's after the game.
Yeah, that was the ironic name we came up with when Dean Smith was in charge, because everybody had a problem with Dean Smith's team sheet, regardless of who was playing. So there was always going to be a tantrum. So, yeah, that's really it. The moment, just back into it. And glad to have football back, because you don't know how much you miss it, and how much of doing podcasts takes up a bit of time. And it's nice to be able to come on and chat to people and to talk and see people in the comments and stuff like that, and chat to yourself, So it's it's great to have it back, and long may it continue, from here until the end of May.
It's great to be back at Villa Park yesterday. Yes, we didn't get the result we wanted, but again, great to see people. I liked the little light show at the beginning that they did, actually. I say light show, I use that term very, very loosely. That some flicking lights and music playing, but I enjoyed that at the time. Enjoyed seeing people, enjoyed being back at Villa Park. Did not enjoy the cold at all. So yeah, back for a match preview sometime before the Spurs game. Thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks to Neil. Thanks to Adam, and up the Villa.